Alright, time for another draft. Physics.com video presentation. Debate physics also, but no within reasonable bounds kind of debate. I make videos explaining physics concepts. Other people make videos that are full of slander and bullshit and antics and nonsense and doxing. And so I don't really have an obligation to respond to that crap, so I won't until it's cleaned up and turned into a physics argument. So if they can't manage to make a reasonably coherent, rationally relevant video, then yeah, no, not my problem. All right, so I showed there, the Newton's cradle kind of platform for demonstrating the action in the universe. Kind of a famous Newton. Okay, anyway, so there's this experiment they do, okay, where they claim they can collide a one mass into a two mass. Okay, so this is stationary, this is moving, okay, and that when they do this, they can increase the momentum. So you have 100 momentum, let's say, of movement, mass, and velocity, and you end up with, an object number 3. These two stick together, that has 150. When we get 150, we'll make this a 3 mass. I believe their mass says 150 for that. And you end up with a reflection here, okay, of 50. So you end up with a total of 200. So you start with 100 things moving, 100 atoms moving, and you end up with 200 atoms moving. This is simple, And obviously that should not make much sense to people. They should be able to say, gee, that seems like free energy. You should be able to capitalize on that. This increase in the atoms moving, this should be something we can extract. Doesn't seem to be anything stopping us from extracting it. All right, and so the parallel to it is the Newton's cradle. I mean, it's been around a lot longer than air tracks and little funky carts. And so, there's a demonstration of it. So you have the 1 mass and the 3 mass, and you're just doing the same experiment. I mean, you're just going to crash. You're going to give the small mass velocity. Okay, and we'll say 100 again. And their theory is, okay, the theory says, their model says, this has to leave, okay, it's an elastic collision, clearly elastic, clearly fits the mold of conservative. It doesn't lose energy, nothing deforms, pieces don't fly off. Clearly they're saying, their theory says this leaves with 150. Okay, and then you end up with 50 going back this way. Okay, and you can see this part. You can see it do this part. You can see stuff going this way, and you can see stuff going that way. Now, what you don't see is stuff going this way looking all that impressive. So what you really do see is that 50% goes here. All right, so you get 50 momentums this way, and you get 50 this way. All right, and then when they come back together again, okay, so they fly apart. This goes 50% of the momentum goes this way, 50% goes this way. And then when they come back together again, the full 100% goes back into this object. And it's just kind of obvious that's exactly what happens. So when they come colliding in again, 50 plus 50 equals 100. And so it's always conservative. Now, I think they know, all right, that if you do a Newton's cradle with uneven masses, and you put in different amounts of energy, that you have this one go and say instead of 50-50, we have this one going 40 momentums, and this one has 50 momentums, or 60. Okay. They know that when those two things hit each other, they're going to end up with a product of 100. So in spite of the fact that they're going in different directions, okay, they don't end up making 20. Okay, they don't cancel. 40 here doesn't cancel 40 here, and that doesn't happen in a Newton's cradle. So there is no cancellation of the momentums. There's no subtraction of the directions. It doesn't happen. They know it doesn't happen. because I can change these numbers to really big numbers, and we know when the collision takes place, the momentum will be conserved, and this is real momentum, and this is real momentum, and I'm going to get real momentum out of the collision. Because nothing's going to be bent, nothing's going to be, there's no loss of the momentum. There's no place it can go. It has to stay in these two objects. It can't go anywhere else. So it's just idiotic to say, oh yeah, this went with 150 and then this came in with 50. Okay, so we have 200 momentum in the system now, but only 100 of it's going to pop back out. We know that can't be true. We know that doesn't happen. So why are they defending it? I mean, why is there really an argument? This does not match this. I mean, these two experiments don't match each other. The results aren't the same. Now, yeah, the catch is they have a spring here. Now, I don't know if there's any logic to say the spring is somehow magical and it can make more energy, more momentum, that it can do anything other than just store momentum and then give it back. It can't make more of it. So, so this won't be explained. How. So the error, I just wonder, what's the error I made here? Could somebody point out the error I made? The mistake I'm making? That Newton's cradles really do this and they have some evidence somewhere? So I'm going to play this video again. I'm just going to say, have they proven that the heavy ball there is going to gain 150% of the, of the momentum? That it's going to have momentum plus, more momentum that went into the experiment? No, they're not going to. And they're not going to explain why it doesn't happen. Because there's absolutely nothing different about the experiment. It's just two things hitting each other elastically, and we should see the same consistent outcome in both experiments. We shouldn't see different outcomes in the experiment. There's no reason for it. There's no explanation for where the energy could be leaking or failing to work. There's no reason that this is vector. Somehow arrows in different directions matters here, but arrows in different directions doesn't matter here. No explanation. Alright, so we'll play this again, just for fun, and such. Alright, so right there, you can say, okay, they're both moved away from each other. They're saying this has more momentum than the first object had going in. That's their assertion. And that now when they're going to recombine, this is going to be a collision with twice as much momentum in it. But we're not going to see twice as much momentum come out. So now they will, you can see them moving towards each other now. Okay, there it goes. And now all the energy is back in the original ball. So all the momentum, sorry, shouldn't use the word energy because you people don't know energy is momentum. I don't know how you missed that one, but okay. Galileo, Descartes, and Newton believed energy was momentum. You don't. Okay, gotcha. So clearly all the energy went back into the one object. There's only one object moving. It has to contain all the momentum. The collision was between a car, you could say, going 150 miles an hour and a car going 50 miles an hour. They don't bend, okay, unbendable cars. And you're saying when they hit, half the momentum can disappear. There's supposed to be 200 momentum, and now only 100 momentum is going to pop out. And you say that makes sense to you. Same as what we started with. And now the same experiment is just going to happen over and over and over. It's going to come down, it's going to hit the thing not moving. It's going to give it half the energy, is my argument. Half the energy is in the reflection. Or maybe it's two-thirds of the momentum goes forward and 1/3 of the momentum goes backwards. It doesn't matter. The point is that it's only 100 momentum still in the system. And now the two things will collide. Whether this has 75 and this has 25 doesn't really matter. It's 100 total. And that 100 total will reveal itself in this collision. Because, yes, only one object will move, and it will only move with some percentage, 90% of the original momentum, because you're losing a little each time it happens. So how does their idea work? When we know in a Newton's cradle, direction doesn't subtract. It adds. Any direction one object has adds to the direction of the other object. The total momentum has to be conserved. So how can we start with 100, we make 200, and then all of a sudden we go back to 100. How can you explain in this conservative system how that's possible? All right. Yeah, it's not as short, but it is simple. And so I'll move on. Alright, so on the physicist Michael's page, right, where I really shouldn't have to defend myself on his comment section. I mean, frankly, reasonably decent, ethical people shouldn't be, talking absolute shit about other people in other people's comment sections. It's just inherently rude and stupid. But anyway, that's the internet we have. So, this liar has to change the subject. Let's see. You challenge the claim that the bouncing ball bearing is given momentum to the anvil, the earth. Yes, of course I challenge this moronic claim that a ball bearing bouncing 200 times on an anvil gave the earth 20 or 30 times the energy you put in. So you put in 10, and it comes out, the earth moves with 30. That's idiotic, yes. The whole reason the ball bounces back is sort of been proven because of the change between the two anvils, right? I take an anvil that's not heat treated and I take one that's heat treated. The one that's not heat treated, you can look at the surface and you'll see the little dents where the ball hit. You'll see the little defects created. And on the one that's been heat treated, you'll see there's no defects at all, demonstrating that the whole reason why there's more energy is because one is purely reflecting the energy. It's not absorbing any of it. It's not denting, it's not absorbing, it's not consuming, and that's why it goes straight back. It's like the Newton's cradle hitting a brick of steel. It just bounces back. It reflects the energy. 100 goes in, 100 comes back. The Newton's cradle doesn't keep bouncing 200 times, and it's not moving the steel anywhere. It's not moving the earth anywhere. The whole reason why the energy is reflecting is because it wasn't absorbed by the other object. Yes, I'm saying that's perfectly rational. But in your atomic model, so this is the simulation model, you claim that 4 bits bounce back and forth between 2 electrons. Yes, when the electrons are moving toward each other. Oh. It's just, so they don't really bother to pay any attention to what's actually stated, and they just misparaphrase and lie. Okay, so that's all they have. Bounce back and forth between 2 electrons, giving each of the electrons outward momentum. Only when they're moving towards each other. They're getting closer. Do you not see the contradiction here? No, there's no contradiction. I'll draw it. So mindless plays. He plays, in any kind of derogatory nonsense. He'll just chime in and say, me too. He doesn't, and I don't think he will. So, I don't know what that exactly means. Do you not see the contradiction? So that's his answer. He doesn't, and I don't think he will. That's right, because there isn't one. The simulation works just fine, okay, and it doesn't make any new energy, and it doesn't violate any Newtonian rules. Okay, remember how this mock gravity is supposed to work. So again, it's really not mock gravity. Mock gravity is a subject about gravity itself, okay, and this is obviously the bigger picture, which shows that charge is fundamental to all of these actions, frankly. If you don't have electrons and protons to mitigate the action of force, there's no action in the universe, because forces don't interact with forces. That's the simple argument. Light isn't bent by gravity. As in, how does the earth get pushed into the sun? So again, it's obviously not moving into the sun. So and the reason is because the two velocities are in contrary directions. Yeah, now he is contradicting it. So there's no contradiction. So then somebody has to say this nonsense. He thinks a Nobel Prize and recognition awaits him. I'm saying I'm going to be proven right in the end, and you're all going to be proven dumb scum. All right? And so my commentary that the human race is in full-blown idiocracy, because even the people that are pretending they know something, like they know the capital of Australia or something, they're fucking morons. Okay, that it's all nonsense education, that you've all been educated in how to stick your finger up your ass. You haven't been educated to understand what logic is, what a courtroom is, what evidence is, what makes a good logical argument. You're the ones with the contradictions all over the place that you just whitewash over. I mean, again, can you give a rational answer for why science, physics, wouldn't redo the Eddington experiment from space, which we've conquered now for 50 years, when you have 400 times better resolution, you don't have to worry about an eclipse, and it only takes 5 minutes? There won't be any answer how that's good science, because it's horrible science. It's tragically terrible science. Why hasn't anybody even analyzed the Newton's cradle and demonstrated that, oh wow, look, you can make free momentum with a Newton's cradle. It's really cool. Look, I made free momentum. But that's not enough motive to buy proper equipment. So again, I should buy the equipment, right? I mean, they all own it already. Okay, they've already bought all the equipment. They all have the money, the labs, the resources. They don't have to prove their physics. I have to prove mine. See, they can't see that there's a contradiction here, a double standard. See, they're so frickin' ignorant. They're claiming they have some knowledge of the world, some knowledge of reality, and they can't even see the overt duplicity of standing there in court and saying, I don't need to present any evidence. They do. No, you both do. All right, and kind of obviously the prosecutors, the ones from the position where we have the cops and the resources and the detectives and all that crap, well, maybe you're the ones that should produce some evidence, right? Amazing duplicity of these people. Let's see. Proper equipment to prove himself. So I will prove it, and I won't need proper equipment because the evidence is going to be so decisive. Your loss, your failure will be so decisive that even with a crappy experiment, I'll prove it. Just like the Mythbusters car crash experiments. I mean, you don't need precision to see the obvious. All right. 3 times the speed, not 3 times the impact. I mean, 9 times. It doesn't happen, retard. We all supposed to kiss his hand. Well, where is that in here anywhere? I'm not asking for anything from you except a reasonable counter argument. So that's all bullshit. And all I'm trying to get you to acknowledge is, wow, besides getting plus and minus wrong, physics has made some other mistakes, because these are just mistakes. Okay, the fact is photons are disturbed by surfaces. That's what the experiments clearly demonstrate when properly analyzed, that it's all about the surfaces and where the position of the surfaces is. The surfaces essentially become point sources. So if you have a photon go by a surface, it's disturbed by the surface, and the light will scatter to new locations because of that surface. That's what's been clearly demonstrated. And again, you're in denial. You're pretending that evidence isn't persuasive, when it can't be anything other than persuasive. It's so decisive. The clear correlation between the distance between the surfaces and where the fringes are is so proven to be definite that you have no excuse to pretend this is about whatever it is, bubbly, wavy stuff. Anyway, that alone demonstrates that he doesn't take any of this seriously. So again, the fact that I'm not willing to spend my very limited income on proper equipment to do experiments you should have done 300 years ago is my bad. No, I think that's your bad. The fact that you won't even tell some other physicist, why don't you do this experiment? You're the ones with the resources, you have the money, why don't you do the experiments? You won't even say that. So again, more duplicity, just, talking about contradicting a principle. You just don't give a shit about the principle at all here, because you won't admit that your own science has failed dismally by not doing any of these experiments, not analyzing any of this. To come up with some air cart experiment that's exactly a duplicate of the Newton's cradle. Why do I need an air cart when the Newton's cradle is supposed to do the same goddamn thing? There's absolutely nothing different about the physics. What's different about the physics about doing the Newton's cradle and doing this air cart fucking bullshit? Why should I need the air cart? All I need to do is crash a 1 mass into a 3 mass. I don't need an air cart to do that. And you won't concede any of this. You're just such despicable, lying, cheating, conniving shysters. Okay. The grandiosity of the claims ought to match how... So my claims are grandiose. I'm saying Newton was right and momentum is conserved. That's a grandiose claim. They're the ones saying the living force is real, and even though we don't have any experimental evidence proving it, it's real, it's real, it's real. How much the effort you're willing to put in to be cogent with it. I mean, it's just not coherent. No, well, whatever. And then this is Farley, Woto. LOL, yes, I always enjoy how he avoids answering questions. So again, amazing. I put up 5-minute videos, ask for people to just argue the 5 minutes of physics. Don't argue something else, just argue the physics in the 5-minute videos. Alright, keep all your other bullshit out of it. Okay, it's a physics argument, just make your physics argument. No, can't be done. Okay, which exposes his incompetence and self-contradiction. So again, there's no self-contradictions. These are all just lies put in somebody else's video where I'm supposed to go fix it. Because the guy who owns the video won't fix it. Won't tell his audience, well, maybe he shouldn't talk absolute shit in my comment section. Okay, he will not address my point that his force bits have infinite energy and momentum. So they obviously don't. It's just a lie, it's just crap, it's just bullshit. I've drawn how it works. I've shown the simulation. It's on the debatephysics.com website. There's a little category there, the simulation, and I explain exactly how it works. And nowhere in there is there any free momentum, nowhere does the energy get used twice, none of that crap happens. So it's just a lie. Bouncing an infinitum between electrons and imparting momentum to them. So it doesn't happen. It's not part of the simulation. The only case in which it has the appearance of it is when two objects are moving towards each other, and what will happen to those two objects is they will reverse their direction. So just like gravity looks like a free force, well, it's only free if you don't count the part where you have to push your way back out again. So obviously it can look like there's free energy, but there's no free energy. All right. I pointed this out to him years ago, so more lies. Okay, even before he got his kinetic energy bug, and he muttered his usual word salad of denial and never actually addressed it. So these are just lies. So blah 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 blah. So I will draw it one more time, even though I've been over it so many times, just to prove that the point is that, yes, I've modified the theory over the last 10 years. So it would clearly be idiotic to argue the 10-year-old version, okay, which had some flaws, frankly, just because there's a lot of bouncing balls to follow. And that's exactly what it is. It's a lot of bouncing balls. I mean, that's what the universe is, frankly. As Feynman put it, You could have a very large checkerboard with very simple rules, and it will produce now and then a picture of Bugs Bunny. It'll produce things that look complicated. Okay. But anyway, so the simple idea is that electrons end up being always producing a negative charge. Okay, they produce a certain charge, and then protons have a likewise configuration where they produce a constant force. Okay, inverse square, just like light coming off a light bulb, they produce a force that obeys the inverse square law. And the reason is because anything, there's two kinds of force in the universe, electron force and proton force. And the simple truth is that when an electron force goes into, a proton, it comes out proton force. And the same thing happens here. When a proton force goes into an electron, the simple rule is it comes out an electron force. And the motion is likewise just two different ways you can move. You can either absorb the energy or you can reflect it. So the fact is when this object is moving towards another electron, and the blue force is moving between them, you could understand that it's going to reflect. And a reflection is actually this one hits coming in, and you lose one going out. Okay, so one hits and the other object reflects because it has one coming in. So it's basically always this collision, one against one, and the two things just reverse their direction. So that's a reflection. This reflects and that reflects. And absorption is it stays in there, it sticks. So obviously when they're moving towards each other, it's all reflections because the energy, it has more energy moving this way. So there's always going to be a reflection. So this has energy stuck to it. And each time this bit hits, one of these pieces leaves. So as it moves towards, it starts losing its energy in this direction through these reflections. But once they're moving away from each other, then it's all absorptions. Then every time one of these bounces, it could bounce off this one because it's moving in this direction. If this one is now moving away, then it will just add to its away direction. So it'll just start piling up arrows in this direction, sticking to it and sticking to it. And so it'll start going faster and faster away. So when they're moving towards, it's reflections. When they're moving away from each other, it's absorptions. So there's no infinite energy. There's no, every single little arrow is accounted for in the simulation. I've explained the math of how the math works that's running the simulation. So this is all just lies. Now, it's not a lie to say that in the past I've had some elements that weren't consistent. It didn't work when you really played them all out. But again, it's pretty much the long past, not the recent past. So it's just a lie to say the current simulation has any infinity problems. It's just a lie. Okay. Alright, not too much new on the website in terms of comments, but I'll read this one since the asshole posted it. The Spring Paradox, MGT, not MGH. So this is nothing to do with that video, frankly. So anyway, Steven's latest video corrects your goalpost moving. So there's no goalpost moving. That's just an ambiguous nothing statement. Liar, liar, pants on fire. About the launch experiment. So again, there's no launch experiment. So I don't know what you're talking about. There's launching objects in lots of different experiments. So there's no such thing. So anyway, he links to one of Brozo's videos. Now, as stated, I'm not watching Ian Gosling or Stephen Bro videos. I will not respond to them because they both think doxing is an acceptable tactic on the internet. I won't endorse that behavior in any way. I won't say, yes, that's okay, you can do that. So fuck you until you clean up your act. So if you can't behave within reasonably civil bounds and stay out of people's private lives, fuck you till dead. preferably. All right, but I will re-argue the arguments that Stephen Bro has no hope of correcting in any way whatsoever. So, as I have pointed out clearly, there's stuff you just can't get around. And the truth is, this is Galilean stuff. This is 500-year-old stuff. So as I've pointed out, anything rolling on a surface in gravitational friction, anything, every single thing you roll on a surface will in fact move its distance, okay, and then stop. It'll run out of energy. And clearly, as Richard Feynman and everybody else knows, all the energy just goes here. This is where it goes. It goes into the ground. All right, that's what it does. And the fact is that when it's here, 3/4 of the distance is where it's going to go 1/2 the speed. So this little tiny part of the voyage, right, this little bit, will end up taking as much velocity from the object as this entire distance. So in this entire distance, it puts 1 unit of force into the ground. And in this little distance, it puts 1 unit of force into the ground. That's how it works. So when you do compare something going 1 velocity here, and I have another object and I do the same thing, except I give it 2 velocities, twice the velocity, the fact is this will go this little distance by comparison, which will be the same as this, 1/2. So at half the velocity, this is exactly the same experiment. This one is the same as this one, this little one, okay? And this whole section here, all right, will be the same force as this force into the ground. But the simple truth is, the faster you're going, the less rain you're collecting. It's just like gravity was rain. This is a bucket. If I move the bucket quickly through the rain, it collects less rain. And as I move it slower through the rain, it collects more rain per foot. No one's going to undo this as a fact. So all of their gimmicks and rhetoric and nonsense and antics can't change these facts. Okay, these are facts. All right, that can't be denied reasonably. They can only be attacked by unreasonable buffoons. All right, this is the round earth theory of how it works. And all there are flat, stupid, nonsense crap, okay, stated by other morons. Okay, but this is the only way it works. This is the way it works. And they'll never show otherwise. All right, so that's one of his stupid statements dealt with. I mean, his stupid idea that somehow you're going to undo this MGH thing. This is just a duplication of what happens as you fall in gravity. I guess I should make that point. Well, I'll just redraw it. Okay, back. So, the rolling argument is just revealing that when gravity is in control, you're just doing this again. Okay, you're dropping something from 1 unit of distance versus 4 units of distance. This will fall in only 2 units of time. So even though it's 4 units of distance, okay, it's only going to be in the gravity 2 units of time. And it's only going to have twice the velocity, and it's only going to weigh twice as much. And that's it. 2, 2, 2. The 4 is just a nuisance distraction. It doesn't have anything to do with how gravity works. Gravity hits this at a constant rate. It hits this at a constant rate. And the rate, 9.8 meters per 1 second. It's 9.8 meters, okay, per 1 second. All right? That's the real physics. That's the truth. It's a clearly time-dependent function. You're only going to collect 2 units of force here because you are only in 2 units of time. Critical. 1 unit of time here, 2 units of time here. The buckets, the rain, you'll collect twice the rain here, half the rain here, undeniable facts of the universe, can't be rationally disputed. And this relates to part of the launching experiment, where Stephen Brozo is saying that I can have something with twice the velocity, okay, and one velocity, and I could shoot these things off a cliff, and I could somehow, I'm going to get this, okay, object to go something other than exactly twice as far. So as all the physicists have pointed out, if it's going twice the velocity, it has to go twice the distance. Because this downward motion is a constant force, both objects will fall at the same rate, and the fact is they're going to hit the ground at the same time, okay, so they're going to be in the gravity the same amount of time, and obviously if this is going twice the velocity in the same time, it'll go exactly twice the distance. This can't be disputed. It's undisputable fact of the reality. That's how the world works. Stephen Bro is an idiot. So the only way you can make them go a different distance is you have to shoot them at a different angle. Or, okay, they have to be the wrong velocity. So if you shoot it straight, there's no choice. Okay, physics says it has to go twice as far. Alright, so I guess that's enough. So everything I just said on these subjects is absolutely true. I don't believe that I made any critical errors or dramatic errors. So I will say that 1,000 years from now, and 10,000 years from now, a million years from now, these will be facts. Okay, that the kind of thing you can write in stone. You can chisel it into a piece of rock. Okay, it's absolutely factual that this is what will happen. There's no way to evade it. It's just the truth of the circumstance. These are the dynamics. There is no other arrow that needs to be drawn. There is no KE magic you can inject. It's not there, and it can't be contrived. And keeping this all consistent. It's an absolute truth that every single rolling object in friction goes half the velocity 3/4 of the way through its voyage. Fact. Galilean fact. Okay, so you're not going to change it. You're not going to fix it. You're not going to be able to evade it. And it's a decisively revealing truth. It's telling you friction isn't linear. It's telling you the faster you're going, the less you're going to put in to friction per foot. And the slower you're going, the more you're going to lose to friction per foot. Absolute fact. All right. So, till the next time and such.